human nerd, was sitting in a bar chair until an orc girl sat down, jokingly but felt a hellish heat. The Iron Mug Tavern had a smell, not the pleasant smell of roasted meat or fresh bread. No, the Iron Mug smelled like compromise, like two species that had spent 3 centuries trying to kill each other, now trying to share the same space without starting another war. It smelled like tension pretending to be tolerance. Varza pushed through the heavy oak door and spotted her friends at their usual corner. Gorthak's laugh echoed across the room before she even reached them. That laugh, the kind that made you want to punch something, preferably Gorthak's face. "Varza!" he bellowed, slamming his massive hand on the table. "Perfect timing. We were just discussing your situation." She slid onto the bench, armor creaking. "What situation?" "The fact that you haven't taken a mate yet. You're what, 23 summers? Most orc women your age already have at least one whelp underfoot." Varza drained half her tankard. "Most orc women my age don't have your personality, Gorthak. Consider yourself lucky anyone mated with you at all." The table erupted in laughter. Gorthak's grin widened. "Speaking of mating," he said, "I have a challenge for you." "No, you haven't even heard it yet." "Don't need to. The answer is no." Gorthak leaned forward, eyes glinting with malicious joy. "I dare you to sit next to the human boy. The scholar. The one who looks like a strong wind would snap him in half." Varza followed his gaze to a corner table where a young human hunched over a massive book. Thin, pale, dark hair falling into his eyes. He looked like he weighed less than her left leg. "That's your challenge? Sit next to a human. Not just sit. Buy him a drink. Talk to him. Make him so uncomfortable he leaves." It was stupid, childish, beneath her, which is exactly why she stood up, grabbed 2 tankards, and walked across the tavern toward the human boy. Conversations died as she passed. The boy didn't look up until her shadow fell across his book. When he did, his eyes went very wide. "Mind if I sit?" Varza asked, not waiting for an answer. The boy's mouth opened, closed, opened again. No sound came out. "Brought you a drink. You looked thirsty." He stared at the tankard like it might bite him. And that's when Varza felt it. Heat. Not the normal warmth of embarrassment radiating from his red face. This was different. Wrong. A heat that shouldn't exist. Emanating from him like standing too close to a forge, waves of it rolling off his skin. But nobody else seemed to notice. I'm sorry," the boy stammered. "Did you want this table? I can move." "Relax. Just sitting. Name's Varza. Aldrich." His hands trembled as they gripped the book's edge. The leather bookmark sticking out looked worn, darkened at the edges like it had been exposed to heat for too long. The heat intensified. Varza's skin prickled. Sweat formed at her temples. "What are you reading?" Aldrich glanced down. "Oh, ancient curses. Historical accounts of magical maladies." He stopped. "Sorry, it's boring. You probably don't care." "Curses, huh? Find anything interesting?" "Not really. Most of it's just theory. Speculation." He looked at her with sudden suspicion. "Why are you talking to me?" Direct. Unexpected from someone who looked like he apologized to furniture. "Does there need to be a reason?" "Yes. People don't talk to me. Especially not." He gestured vaguely at her 8 feet of muscle and green skin. From across the tavern, Gorthak's laugh echoed, waiting for the joke's punchline. But Varza barely heard him. The heat was so intense, her vision blurred at the edges, and this fragile human boy sat there completely unfazed, like he didn't notice he was burning hot enough to make an orc warrior sweat. "You're right," Varza said, standing abruptly. The heat immediately lessened. "People are terrible. Drink's yours." She walked back on unsteady legs. When she sat down, Gorthak was grinning. "That was fast. Couldn't even last 5 minutes. Shut up, Gorthak." His grin faltered. "You look like you've been standing in the sun too long." Varza grabbed her tankard and drained it. The cool liquid did nothing to stop the lingering sensation of heat on her skin. Across the tavern, Aldrich had returned to his book, like he hadn't just burned her from the inside out by existing. The worst part? She wanted to go back. 3 days later, Varza found herself at the Iron Mug again. She told herself it was normal routine. The fact that it was Wednesday instead of her usual Friday meant nothing. The fact that she immediately scanned for a thin human boy meant nothing. He was there. Same table, different book, same worn bookmark. Varza bought 1 drink, walked to his table, sat down. Aldrich looked up, startled. "Oh, you're back." Observant. The heat hit immediately, just as intense, just as impossible. "Did you need something?" "No." "Then why? Can't an orc sit where she wants?" Aldrich's mouth thinned. You're doing it again. Talking to me like I'm stupid. Like this is some joke I'm not getting. I don't know what dare your friends put you up to, but I'm not interested in being the punchline. You're burning, Varza interrupted. Aldrich stopped, blinked. What? You're hot, like fire. Can you not feel it? For a long moment, Aldrich just stared. Then something shifted in his expression. Relief, or maybe resignation. You can feel it? He asked quietly. Of course I can feel it. It's like sitting next to a damn furnace. Nobody else can. He gestured around. Nobody. I've asked, tested. For 3 years I've been burning alive from the inside, and nobody, not one single person, has ever felt what you just felt. The heat pulsed stronger. Varza leaned back. 3 years? 3 years? 2 months. 16 days. Since the day my mother died. His hand went to the bookmark, fingers tracing burned edges. The heat started the day she passed. Been getting stronger ever since. Master Edwin, he runs the library. He's been helping me research, but everything's either myth or nonsense. You're cursed. Apparently. Best we can figure, it's inherited. My mother had it too. She lasted 41 years before the heat consumed her. I'm only 19, so I have about 22 years left, give or take. The casual way he said it made Varza's stomach twist. And you're just okay with that? What choice do I have? Aldrich looked at her properly for the first time. She saw exhaustion in his eyes, the kind from carrying something too heavy for too long. I've read every book in this city, traveled to 3 others, consulted priests, healers, even a very drunk wizard who tried to sell me a rock. Nothing works. So yes, I'm okay with it, because being okay is better than spending my last 22 years terrified. The heat pulsed again, stronger. Does it hurt? Aldrich smiled, the saddest smile Varza had ever seen. Every single day. Varza came back the next night, and the night after that. By the 5th visit, Kashara stopped asking what she wanted, just had a tankard ready. You're going to wear a path in the floorboards, Kashara said one evening. Mind your business. This is my tavern. Everything in it is my business. Kashara leaned forward. That human boy, he's good people, quiet, polite, tips well even though he clearly doesn't have money. So whatever you're doing, I'm not doing anything. That's my point. You're an orc, Varza. We don't do things halfway. Either you're interested in that boy, or you need to stop giving him hope. I'm just curious about the heat. Uh-huh. Kishara didn't look convinced. Well, be careful. Humans break easier than we do, in more ways than one. Aldrich didn't seem startled anymore when Varza's shadow fell across his table, almost like he'd been expecting her. Back again, he said. Not a question. Apparently I don't know when to quit. The heat washed over her. She'd almost gotten used to it. Almost. New book? Same topic, different author. Eastern Kingdoms. Legends about curses that burn from within. He traced a finger down the page. Most end with the cursed person bursting into flames and taking everyone with them. Cheerful. I specialize in cheerful. He glanced up. You know you don't have to keep coming back, right? Just because you can feel the heat doesn't mean you're responsible for it. Who says I feel responsible? Then why do you keep coming back? Fair question. Varza had been asking herself the same thing for 5 nights. Maybe I like your company. Aldrich laughed. A rusty sound. Nobody likes my company. I'm boring. I read about dead languages and forgotten curses. I can't swing a sword, can't hunt, can't even lift anything heavier than a book without my arms shaking. I'm the definition of useless in a world that values strength. You're not useless. I'm dying of a curse nobody else can feel. I'm the most useless person in this city. The heat spiked. You're still here, though. Still fighting. Still researching. Still trying even though you've accepted your fate. That's not useless. That's stubborn. And stubbornness is the most orc quality a human can have. Aldrich blinked. Did you just compliment me by calling me orc-like? In my culture, yes. That's... He trailed off. Thank you, I think. They sat in silence. The tavern noise swirled around them, but in their corner it was quiet. Just Varza and Aldrich and the heat nobody else could feel. Can I ask you something? Aldrich said eventually. You just did. Can I ask something else? Varza gestured for him to continue. Why don't you pull away? Everyone else does. When they sense something's wrong, they pull away. But you keep coming back. Keep sitting closer than anyone has in 3 years. Why? Varza looked at him. Really looked. At the dark circles under his eyes. At the way his fingers trembled holding books. At the bookmark so burned it looked ready to disintegrate. Because you're burning, she said simply. And nobody should burn alone. Something in Aldrich's expression cracked, just for a moment, just long enough for Varza to see raw, desperate hope underneath all that resignation. The heat's getting worse, faster than it should. Master Edwin thinks I might not have 22 years. Might be a lot less. The heat pulsed. So strong Varza felt it in her bones. Then we'd better figure out how to stop it. We? You think I'm sitting here every night for the ambiance? You said you've read every book in this city. What about orc texts? Clan histories? Shamanic records? Aldrich shook his head. I don't have access. Humans aren't exactly welcome in orc libraries. Good thing you know an orc then. You'd help me? Really help me? I'm already here, aren't I? Tomorrow night. Bring everything you've learned. I'll bring what I can find from my clan's records. Between your human knowledge and my orc resources, maybe we'll find something useful. Why? Why are you doing this? Varza looked down at him. At this fragile human boy dying slowly and somehow accepting it with more grace than most warriors showed facing honorable death in battle. Because you shouldn't have to burn alone. And because maybe I'm tired of people assuming orcs can't care about anyone outside their own kind. She walked away before he could respond. Before the heat could make her dizzy enough to say something even more honest. Behind the bar, Kashara was watching with that knowing look again. The old texts were worse than useless. Varza had spent 2 days digging through her clan's records. What she found was myths, legends, stories that all ended the same way, in fire, curses that burned from within, inherited flames, the consuming heat, different names across different clans, same concept, a magical affliction that slowly cooked you from inside until there was nothing left but ash and regret. Every single account ended in death. She spread the scrolls across Aldrich's table, watching his face as he read with desperate intensity. This one says the curse can be transferred, he said, pointing to an old scroll in Old Orcish. Keep reading. His face fell. Oh, the transfer kills both the original host and the person who accepts it. Not helpful. None of it's helpful. It's all the same. Burn, suffer, die. There's no cure, no solution, just death. There has to be something. Aldrich pulled one of his books closer. Master Edwin found references to absorption rituals. Processes where someone strong enough could take on another person's magical burden. And they all require massive magical energy and usually result in both participants dying anyway. He slumped back. We're looking for something that doesn't exist. A cure for the incurable. The heat radiating from him was worse tonight. Varza could see it now. The air around Aldrich shimmered, like heat waves rising from sun-baked stone. How long? She asked. What? How long do you actually have? Aldrich's hand went to his bookmark. The gesture was automatic now, comforting. Master Edwin thinks maybe 6 months. The rate's accelerating. Every day it gets hotter, harder to bear. Eventually, he didn't finish. Didn't need to. 6 months. There's one more thing. Aldrich pulled out a worn journal. This belonged to my mother. She kept notes about the curse. He opened to a page marked with a small, burned feather. The handwriting was elegant but shaky. The heat is not just flame. It is life itself burning too bright, too fast, like a candle lit at both ends. The curse doesn't add fire to the body. It accelerates the very essence of living until the body cannot sustain it. What others live over 80 years, we live in 40, burning twice as bright, lasting half as long. He closed the journal carefully. She died when I was 16. The heat consumed her so fast at the end she couldn't even touch me without burning me. The last time I hugged my mother, I came away with blisters. The bookmark slipped from between pages. Varza caught it, feeling heat-damaged leather crumble under her fingers. This was hers, Aldrich said. Not a question. She made it when I learned to read. Said a true scholar always knows where they left off, so they can pick up the journey again. He took it back gently. It used to be brown. Now it's almost black. In a few months there won't be anything left of it. Just like there won't be anything left of me. I've been reading your orc texts, he said, changing subject. The ones about absorption, they're different from human versions. How so? Humans see it as transferring a burden. Orcs see it as sharing strength. He pulled a scroll closer. This talks about warriors taking on curses meant for their chieftains. Not to die in their place, but to carry the weight together. To split the burden. Absorption still kills both participants. In every human text, yes. But this orc scroll, Aldrich's finger traced Old Orcish. It says, the strong may carry what the weak cannot, and live. What if it only kills both if both are weak? What if someone strong enough could actually survive? That's a big what if. Everything about this is a big what if. But it's the first thing suggesting absorption doesn't automatically mean death. He looked at her with those exhausted eyes that now carried something new. Hope. Dangerous hope. Orcs are stronger than humans. Physically, magically, in every way. If anyone could survive an absorption ritual, it would be an orc. Varza saw where this was going and hated it. No. You haven't even heard. I said no, Aldrich. You're the only one who can feel the heat. The only one it doesn't seem to hurt by proximity. You said yourself orcs are stronger. If we could find the right ritual, you're asking me to take your curse. I'm asking you to save my life, by risking mine. Do you understand what you're asking? Even if it works, even if I survive, I'd be carrying your curse. Your heat. Your slow death. I know exactly what I'm asking, and I know I have no right. But you're the first person in 3 years who's made me think I might actually have a future. So yes, I'm asking, begging, because if there's even a chance, there isn't. You don't know that. I do, because I've read these texts, talked to shamans, consulted warriors who attempted absorption rituals. Most are dead. The ones who survived are broken in ways that make death look merciful. The heat pulsed between them, so strong other patrons started shifting away without knowing why. Aldrich slumped forward. I'm sorry. You're right. I had no right to ask. That's not why I'm saying no. I'm saying no because I don't want to watch you die. And I definitely don't want to be the reason you die if this kills us both. He looked up. Then what do? We keep looking. There has to be something we're missing. There isn't. I've been searching for 3 years. You've been helping for 3 weeks. We're not going to suddenly find a miracle cure everyone else missed. This is it. This is the only option that remotely suggests survival. He was right. Varza hated that he was right. Let me think about it. How long? As long as I need. I have 6 months, Varza. Maybe less. I don't have time. Then you'll have to make time. Because I'm not making this decision tonight, in a tavern, while you're literally burning in front of me. If I'm going to risk my life for you, I'm doing it with a clear head. Understood? Aldrich nodded slowly. Understood. Master Edwin's library was smaller than Varza expected, barely bigger than a large bedroom. Shelves crammed floor to ceiling, scrolls on every surface. The old man looked up when Varza ducked through the doorway. Ah, you must be Varza. Aldrich said you might come. He talks about me? Constantly. Edwin gestured to a chair. Please sit or stand. Standing works better for your kind. Varza remained standing. Aldrich said you've been helping him research. For 3 years, yes. Poor boy came to me the day after his mother passed, desperate for answers I couldn't provide. He pulled a worn journal from his desk. I've failed him. 3 years of research, and the only thing I've confirmed is that he's going to die young. Just like his mother. Just like his grandmother. The curse runs in their bloodline like a river of fire. How many generations? As far back as we can trace. 8, 9. Records get spotty. He showed her pages of cramped handwriting and family trees. Always the same pattern. Curse awakens in late teens or early 20s. Burns for 20 to 40 years. Then consumes the host in weeks, sometimes days. Aldrich mentioned absorption rituals. Edwin's hand stopped shaking. He looked at Varza with eyes that had seen too many students come and go. I know what you're thinking. I know what Aldrich is thinking. And I'm telling you, absorption rituals are dangerous, unpredictable, and almost always fatal to everyone involved. Almost. Almost isn't good enough when you're risking 2 lives instead of 1. But it's possible. The orc texts suggest someone strong enough could survive. The orc texts were written by warriors who believed strength could solve any problem. He cleaned his glasses. But magic doesn't care about strength. Curses don't care about courage. They just are. And trying to wrestle them into submission gets people killed. So you're saying I shouldn't try? I'm saying you should think very carefully about why you want to try. Edwin put his glasses back on. Aldrich is brilliant, kind, gentle. Everything this harsh world tries to beat out of people. I've watched him grow from a scared 16-year-old who'd just lost his mother into a young man who faces his own death with more grace than most warriors face battle. And I've watched him be alone through all of it. Invisible to everyone except me and now, you. Your point? My point is, you're the first person in 3 years who's made him feel seen, worth saving. And I think you need to ask yourself, are you doing this because you genuinely believe the ritual can work, or because you can't stand the thought of letting him die alone? It was the question Varza had been avoiding. Does it matter? It matters if the ritual fails and you both die. It matters if you survive and he doesn't. It matters if you take on his curse and spend the next 20 years burning the same way he has. Edwin stood, moving with careful steps. I've studied this curse longer than anyone alive. The one thing I know, it doesn't just burn the body, it burns everything. Relationships, hope, the will to keep fighting. Aldrich's mother spent her last years watching everyone she loved pull away because they couldn't bear to watch her suffer. Is that what you want? No. Then why are you here? Varza looked around the library. At the books Aldrich had probably read dozens of times. At the desk where he'd spent countless hours searching for a cure that didn't exist. At the tiny window that barely let in light. Because he shouldn't have to burn alone. And because maybe I'm tired of a world where people with curses are left to die while everyone else pretends not to notice. Edwin studied her for a long moment. Then he reached into his desk and pulled out a scroll so old it looked ready to crumble. This is the only absorption ritual I've found that might work. It's incomplete. The last third is missing. And even what we have is in Old Orcish I can barely translate. But it's the only one that specifically mentions the recipient surviving if they're strong enough. Varza took the scroll carefully. The parchment felt warm. What do I need to do? First, understand what you're actually absorbing. This isn't just heat. It's not just a curse. It's Aldrich's life force burning too bright. Taking it on means taking on the accelerated pace of his existence. You'll live faster, feel more intensely, burn brighter in every sense. And if the ritual works, you'll carry that for the rest of your life. And if it doesn't work, then you'll both burn. There's no middle ground. It either works completely or fails catastrophically. Varza unrolled the scroll, looking at old Orcish words her ancestors had written centuries ago. How long do I have to decide? Aldrich's condition is deteriorating faster than expected. You saw it, didn't you? The way the air shimmers around him. That's new. That's the curse manifesting visibly. Once that starts, the end comes quickly. I'd say a few weeks at most, maybe less. A few weeks to decide if she was willing to risk everything for a boy she'd only known a month. A boy dying of a curse nobody else could feel. A boy who'd somehow become important enough that losing him made Varza's chest hurt in ways that had nothing to do with heat. I'll need time to translate this properly. Take all the time you need. Just remember, time is the one thing Aldrich doesn't have. The full moon rose over the ruins like a pale eye watching their folly. Varza had spent 3 days preparing the site, drawing symbols in dirt according to grudging instructions from Gruka, an old shaman who'd warned her this was forbidden knowledge, gathering herbs to stabilize the transfer, setting up the ritual space in the center of an old stone circle that time had worn down to broken walls. Aldrich arrived exactly at midnight. Master Edwin came with him, insisting on bearing witness. I've watched this boy nearly die a dozen times, Edwin said stubbornly. I'll be damned if I let him face this without someone who cares present. Aldrich looked worse than 5 days ago. The heat shimmer was constant now, visible even in moonlight. His skin flushed, movements slow and pained. Are you sure about this? He asked, stepping into the circle. No, Varza admitted, but I'm doing it anyway. She had him sit in the center where she'd drawn the most complex symbols. The ritual was designed for trained shamans, not warriors with 2 weeks of rushed study. But trained shamans refused to help. The scroll says I need to establish the bond first. Both participants must acknowledge what they mean to each other, truth spoken under the full moon. Aldrich managed a weak smile. Orcs wrote this? Orcs 300 years ago who apparently had time for romance. We've gotten more practical since. Varza took a breath. But the principle stands. We need to be honest. Completely honest. I'll go first. Aldrich held up the leather bookmark, now so burned it was barely holding together. This belonged to my mother. She told me as long as I had it, I'd never really be lost. I could always find my way back to the story, back to myself, back to what mattered. He held it out. For 3 years I've been lost, burning, dying slowly and alone. And then you sat down next to me as a joke. And for the first time since my mother died, I didn't feel lost anymore. I felt found, seen, like maybe I was worth more than the curse eating me alive. Varza took the bookmark, hot to the touch, crumbling slightly. My turn? Your turn. I sat next to you because of a stupid dare, because Gorthak's an idiot and I never backed down. But I kept coming back because you were the first person in my entire life who needed me for something other than fighting, who saw past the armor and muscle and the fact that I'm an orc, and just talked to me, about books and curses and dying gracefully, like I was a person worth talking to, not just a warrior worth having in a fight. She looked down at the bookmark. I'm doing this because I care about you, Because you matter to me in ways I don't fully understand. And because if there's even a chance I can save you, I have to try. Because that's what you do for people who make you feel less alone. The heat pulsed between them. Stronger, but not painful. Almost welcoming. Aldrich reached across and took her hands. The heat where they touched should have been unbearable. Should have burned. But instead it felt like recognition. Like two pieces of the same flame finding each other. "I'm ready," he said. Varza started the ritual. The words were old Orcish, guttural and harsh. Words about strength and sacrifice and bonds that made warriors into family. About fire that could be shared instead of endured alone. About curses that lost power when someone chose to carry them willingly. The heat began to move. Varza felt it like a living thing, flowing from Aldrich's hands into hers. Not burning, not destroying, just transferring. Like water finding its level. It hurt. Not physically. The physical pain she could handle. But this was feeling 3 years of Aldrich's suffering condensed into moments. Feeling his mother's death like it was her own. Feeling the loneliness and isolation and slow acceptance of dying young. Feeling him. The ritual intensified. Symbols in the dirt began glowing soft green. The air shimmered around both of them. "Don't let go," Aldrich gasped. His hands shook in hers. "Varza, whatever you're feeling, don't let go." Wasn't planning to. The heat surged. Varza felt it roar through her like wildfire, burning through every part of her, consuming and transforming and reshaping. Her Orcish constitution meant to handle it. Her strength meant to contain it. Her will meant to master it. But the curse was stronger than anticipated. It fought her, resisted. This was a curse that had lived in one bloodline for generations. It didn't want a new host. Varza pushed harder. The scroll said both participants needed to be willing. She'd interpreted that to mean Aldrich. But now she understood. The curse itself needed to be willing too. It needed to choose to move. To choose her. So she opened herself to it completely. Showed it what she could offer that Aldrich couldn't. Decades instead of years. Orcish strength instead of human fragility. A body built to endure, to survive, to carry burdens that would crush anyone else. And most importantly, the willingness to burn. Not from resignation, but from choice. Because some things were worth burning for. The curse hesitated. In that moment, Aldrich squeezed her hands. "She's stronger than me," he said to the curse. "Stronger than my mother. Stronger than anyone in my family line for 8 generations. If you need to burn, burn in someone who can take it. Someone who won't break. Someone who chose this." The curse decided. It slammed into Varza with the force of a warhammer. Every nerve ignited. Every muscle screamed. Her vision went white with pain and heat and transformation. And then, silence. The heat stopped. Not gone. Varza could feel it inside her now. Coiled in her chest like a living coal. But contained. Controlled. No longer the wildfire it had been in Aldrich, but something more focused. She opened her eyes. Aldrich was staring at his hands in wonder. The shimmer was gone. The heat was gone. He looked normal. Healthy. Like someone had lifted a crushing weight and he was remembering what it felt like to stand upright. "It worked," he breathed. "Varza, it actually worked. I don't feel... The heat is... You did it." Varza tried to speak but couldn't. The curse was settling inside her, finding its new home, reshaping itself to fit an Orcish constitution. It felt like being remade from the inside out. Master Edwin knelt beside her, checking her pulse, breathing, temperature. She's stable. Fevered, but stable. The curse has transferred completely. I can't feel any residual heat from Aldrich at all. But Varza, we'll be fine. Varza managed. Just need a minute. It took more than a minute. She sat in the ritual circle for nearly an hour while her body adjusted. The heat inside wasn't the consuming fire Aldrich had described. It was more like intensity, like everything had been turned up several notches. Emotions felt sharper, thoughts moved faster. Even her heartbeat seemed too quick. "How do you feel?" Aldrich asked eventually. "Like I drank 40 cups of coffee and then ran into battle. Everything's too much and too fast and too bright. Is this what you felt for 3 years?" "Every single day." He looked at the bookmark Varza still clutched. It wasn't burning anymore. Wasn't even warm. Just worn leather. Finally cool for the first time in 3 years. "I can't believe you did this. I can't believe you actually took it. Told you I would. You also told me it wouldn't fail. It didn't. I'm alive. You're alive. We're both dramatically changed, but alive, which counts as success." Edwin helped her stand. Her legs felt shaky. The scroll warns the first few days will be difficult. Your body is adjusting to carrying a curse designed for a different species. You'll feel fevered, disoriented, possibly see visions as the curse tries to find equilibrium. I have medicines that might help. I'll take whatever you've got. Varza looked at Aldrich, at the boy no longer burning, and felt the heat inside her pulse in response. Like it recognized him. Like it remembered where it came from. You should go home. Rest. Celebrate not dying. What about you? I need to learn to live with this thing. But Aldrich didn't leave. He stayed close as Edwin helped Varza from the circle. Stayed close as they made their slow way back toward the city. Stayed close like he was afraid if he moved too far, the curse might jump back. Or maybe he just didn't want to leave her alone with the fire he'd carried so long. Thank you, he said at the edge of the ruins. I know that's inadequate. I know there aren't words for what you just did. But thank you. For seeing me. For saving me. For being willing to burn so I didn't have to. Varza looked at the bookmark. Still cool. Still whole. Just promise me something. Anything. Live. Really live. Don't waste the years I just bought you. Don't spend them hiding in libraries and corners. Go out there and do something worth the price we both paid tonight. Aldrich smiled. The first real smile she'd seen from him. Not sad. Not resigned. Just happy. I can do that. On one condition. What condition? You let me help you learn to live with the curse. You let me show you everything I learned about managing it, coping with it, surviving it. He took her free hand carefully. I carried this alone for 3 years. You don't have to carry it alone. The heat pulsed between them again. But this time Varza understood what it was. Not pain, not a curse, but a bond. A connection forged in fire and sealed under the full moon. The kind that ran deeper than blood. That made two separate people into something more together than they could ever be apart. The kind that made the impossible possible. Deal, Varza said. And together, burning brighter than either had alone, they walked back toward the city and whatever future they just created. 6 months later, Varza stood at the Iron Mug's entrance for the first time since the ritual. The tavern hadn't changed. Same smell of compromise. Same tension pretending to be tolerance. Same heavy door. But she had changed. The curse had settled into her bones, become part of her in ways she was still discovering. She burned brighter than any orc should, moved faster, felt more intensely, lived at a pace that made other orcs uncomfortable and humans nervous. But she was alive, and more importantly, Aldrich was alive. He walked beside her now, no longer the fragile boy who'd hunched over books. 6 months of travel and adventure and actually living had put color in his cheeks, strength in his frame. He still wasn't warrior strong, probably never would be, but he moved with confidence now. Purpose, like someone who'd remembered what it felt like to have a future. They pushed through the door together. The tavern fell silent. Every head turned. Humans and orcs alike, staring at the mismatched pair who'd left 6 months ago and come back changed. Varza felt the heat pulse inside her. She'd learned to control it better now. Could dim it when needed. Let it flare for intimidation. But it was always there. Always burning. Always reminding her of what she'd chosen and why. Kishara stood behind the bar, her single eye taking in every detail. The way they walked close together. The matching leather satchels. The fact that Aldrich no longer shimmered with heat but Varza did. Well, the old orc finally said. That's new. Miss me? Varza asked. Like I missed the plague. But Kishara was already pouring 2 tankards. Sit. Tell me everything. They sat at their old table. The corner where a joke had turned into something impossible. Where Varza had first felt the heat that would change both their lives. Gorthak was there, staring with his mouth open. You did it. You actually saved the human boy. People said you'd both died in some ritual gone wrong. But you're here. You're both here. Surprise, Varza said dryly. But you're different, burning. I can see it. What did you... I took his curse, absorbed it. Now I carry it instead of him. She said it loud enough for the entire tavern to hear. Let them all know exactly what had happened. What she'd chosen. What she'd become. The tavern stayed silent. Then Kishara raised her tankard. To stupid decisions that somehow work out. Other orcs raised their drinks. Even a few humans joined in. To stupid decisions, they echoed. Varza and Aldrich drank, the heat pulsing between them like a shared heartbeat. We didn't find a cure, Aldrich said quietly. 6 months of searching, and we're no closer to breaking the curse completely. No, but we found something better. What's that? She looked at him. At the boy who'd been dying alone and had somehow found life in the most unexpected place. At the partner she'd never planned on having but couldn't imagine being without. We found a way to live with it, together, and sometimes that's enough. The heat pulsed again. Not painful, not consuming. Just there, a reminder of what they'd survived and what they'd chosen, and the impossible bond that made burning feel less like a curse and more like coming home. Aldrich pulled out his book and the new leather bookmark Varza had made during their travels. Clean brown leather, carefully stitched, with 2 words carved on one side, "Keep going." A matched set to the one he'd made her. Still burning and keep going. 2 halves of the same message, 2 people learning to carry the same fire. "So what's next?" Kashara asked. "East," Aldrich said. "There's a monastery with records of ancient healing rituals. Long shot, but worth trying," Varza finished. "We've got time. Might as well use it." "How much time?" Varza felt the curse burning in her chest, felt the accelerated pace of her life, the intensity that made every moment sharper and brighter, felt the years condensing down in ways that should terrify her but somehow didn't, because she wasn't carrying this alone. "Enough," she said. "We have enough time." And maybe that was the real answer to the curse. Not finding a cure, not fighting against the inevitable, but choosing to live fully in whatever time you had, choosing to burn bright instead of slow, choosing to share the heat with someone who understood what it meant to carry fire. Blood makes you orc, loyalty makes you family, but fire, shared willingly, carried together, that makes you something more, something that transcends species and curse and the desperate mathematics of counting down remaining years. That makes you whole. Outside the tavern, the moon rose over a city where orcs and humans drank together in fragile peace, where impossible bonds formed over books and heat and choices that shouldn't work, but somehow did, where a warrior and a scholar walked forward together, burning brighter than either had alone, into whatever future they'd forged from curse and choice, and the understanding that some things were worth the fire. The leather bookmarks rested in their satchels, cool for now, but ready. Reminders of where they'd been, and what they'd survived, and the fact that sometimes the best stories weren't the ones that ended neatly, but the ones that kept going despite everything. Still burning. Keep going. Words to live by when you were learning to make a home in the flames.